What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the remote front office. Today a little bit of a different setup because we are on location here in Detroit. A little bit of a background. We decided to make a trip to Pistons versus Bulls on Saturday. And this is kind of just the live post-game breakdown. Before we get into that, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on the notification bell. Monday, Wednesday, Friday around here. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So I'm going to try and keep this to the point. And try and keep on track. But again, it's the Bulls. You guys know how much I rant about this particular team. So, ended up doing a trip with my brother. We drove all the way up to Detroit to watch, it was the Pistons home opener. So it was Pistons versus Bulls. It was my first in-person look at this team in a couple of years. Haven't been since before COVID. And then also I wanted to get a live in-person feel for the Pistons team, as I just feel like there's been a lot of positives with this team, and I kind of just wanted to see it for myself in person, right? Let's start with the good. So from the Pistons side, Jalen Duren looked amazing. Obviously, he's been on a really good stretch so far this year. Cade looked really solid. It felt like he could get a bucket really anytime he wanted to. Really knew how to pick his spots, was just kind of doing his own thing. And then you had Alec Burks shot a couple of good shots. Sarr had some good minutes. Killian Hayes was hitting jumpers, playing really solid defense. Sarr's defense on Levine in the corner a couple of times. He got him to lose the ball once. He blocked a shot, I think, once. It was all just really solid, well-rounded defense. I think once this team gets some shooting, they'll definitely be in contention for a play-in spot. I don't think they're there quite yet, just with what I saw today, but I definitely think that they will be in that mix. Now, for the ugly, the Bulls. I've said this for a couple of years. Blow it up. Let's get it going, right? Lonzo, we don't know if he's ever playing basketball again at this point. This team doesn't have somebody to set the floor, right? I understand that people are going to say, oh, Zach LaVine went for 51. How can you criticize? Yada, yada, yada. I was sitting there watching it with my brother, and I felt like every time Zach touched the ball, that was the end of the discussion, right? It was Zach was shooting a shot from somewhere. It was either going to be an ISO for Zach. It was going to be a pick and roll with whoever the center was at the time, and he was shooting some sort of step back, whatever. Everybody else was pretty stationary. There were a couple of double pin downs for DeMar occasionally. Didn't really turn into much, but there just wasn't a lot of movement, right? When you watch teams like Golden State, Sacramento's, even a little bit of Houston, San Antonio, etc., 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 right? I'm just naming teams that I've watched a lot of so far this year. There's some sort of movement with these teams, right? There's some sort of pin downs. There's action to the action. There's a counter to what the defense does to a particular action, right? Like there's just all of these checks and balances for teams. And then you go out here with the Bulls and it's, okay, maybe there's one screen in a corner, or it's Zach running a pick and roll, or it's DeMar running a pick and roll. But other than that, they're just sitting there, right? Like Patrick Williams didn't really get a back cut. Caruso didn't get a back cut. We weren't setting really pin downs for Javon. Like there just wasn't a whole lot of trying on offense, right? I felt like I was watching like a 2005 offense with the amount of isolation I was watching, right? I understand that this team sucks as far as volume normally from three, right? They've gotten a little bit better, but the problem is the efficiency stayed about the same, right? We're still pretty bottom of the league. I think we're like bottom three in the league as far as three-point efficiency. If you're going to take them at some point, you got to make them, right? Whether it's a shooting slump or whatever it is, we don't have guys on this team that are made to shoot threes, right? You've got Toronto, who drafted like Grady Dick. You've got Buddy Hield in Indiana. You've got all these different guys that are supposed to shoot threes and make threes that do, and the Bulls just don't have that guy, right? The other thing was Patrick Williams is looking really bad. I think it's time to start understanding that Patrick Williams is probably a backup right now. I don't know if it's... Initially, I thought it was DeMar, Levine, and Vooch took too many touches. But at this point, I just don't think he's comfortable with the ball in his hands, right? He shot some really bad contested mid-ranges. He shot just the decision-making in general just didn't look great from him today. Caruso's a god. I'm going to be sad when he leaves, whether it's via trade this year or he doesn't take the player option or just one of the 15 other things, right? Caruso on this team is a perfect fit for Chicago, right? If we had a team that was actually competing and made sense, Caruso would be by far the most, I think he probably still is the most popular player in Chicago right now just because of how he plays, right? I know I've said it a lot, but I think this team needs to blow it up. DeMar's in a contract year. Go ahead and trade him. You're not going to get a whole lot because he's in a contract year and he's 33 years old, but it's time to go, right? We've tried this. We've looked at it. It's time to go. A couple of interesting, really bad takes I saw on Twitter was, oh, let's trade Patrick Williams, Dalen Terry, and a first for Buddy Hield. That doesn't solve our problems. Detroit was just bigger than us and just got the rebounds. We were putting, at one point, DeMar was guarding Isaiah Stewart. We had Io guarding Isaiah Stewart. Like, there's just, I like some of the lineups. Don't get me wrong, like the Torrey Craig, Alex Caruso, Io lineup. I liked it a lot. They were pressing, they were creating pressure, creating just general chaos. I really like that lineup. But offensively, this team is so bad. I don't quite understand it. I personally do think Billy, I understand we just gave him a contract extension. I just think he's lost the locker room, right? I don't think he's, if you looked at both of the sidelines, right, while watching the game, Monty Williams is standing for, I would say, conservatively 75% of the game, right? Every time I looked over at Billy, he was sitting down, just kind of sitting there, right? I think at this point, Billy's lost the locker room, right? So I think that we are now at a point where Billy's got to go. We need to bring in a young coach that has some more creative philosophies offensively. We need to trade Levine. We need to trade DeMar. Vooch probably not going to be able to trade. Probably have to ride this contract out. And we need to start looking at a true rebuild. I understand Chicago, whether it be the front office or the ownership group, does not understand what a rebuild is. But I think it's time we seriously consider a true rebuild, because I don't know if I can take another season of this team winning 30 to 40 games and then being bounced in the play-in or not making, or being like the 11th seed or any of those sort of outcomes, right? I think we're past that at this point. I think we need to rebuild, retool, and just start from scratch, right? I understand this isn't a great draft class, but too bad. It's got to start sometime, and why not now? But yeah, that's my thoughts on the Bulls-Pistons game. Let me know your guys' thoughts below on the Bulls season, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.